Hello, guys. Uh, it's me again. Real world history. I got some DM where some people, because I've been saying that the kingdom of Benin, the kingdom of Lagos, and the kingdom of the Calabar were founded by the Black Portuguese, and some people were confused as they told me that the Oba of Benin came from Ile-Ife. It is a lie. The name Benin was given to the Idu by the earliest Portuguese settlers. And so today we will discover, we will find out actually whether I'm correct or whether you guys are wrong. And we will cite historical sources. And then I will show you how the king of Portugal sent a colony, people loaded with ships from Portugal down to Benin for them to resettle in it. These people were the Portuguese slave traders. And so the question is Benin is a Portuguese slave colony? Um, am I wrong? Let's go into it. So we look at the description of the terms, Swati, and what is the definition of colony in the 1700 dictionary. And we will also look at the description of the inhabitants of Europe, the Greco-Romans, the description of the Portuguese themselves, and then we will look at the Portuguese in the transatlantic world, the Portuguese kingdom in Nigeria. We will look at Benin, Lagos, and Calabar. We will also look at the original inhabitants of Idu before the arrival of the Portuguese. And these Portuguese mixed with the inhabitants of Idus to create modern Benin population. We will also look at the arrival of the Portuguese in the Guinea. I've always maintained that the people that colonized Africa are Black Europeans. White Europeans started arriving around 19th centuries. Why? It's because I remember when I was growing up, we were taught that Africa was a white man's graveyard because no white man could survive Africa of 15th century, riddled with malaria, leprosy, and other infectious tropical diseases that had no cure. Uh, so, um, so we'll look at the definition of the term swatting. So before we go ahead, we look at the English language dictionary. Let's look at this dictionary of the English language. Uh, uh, so this is the dictionary of the English language by Samuel Johnson and John Walker. Uh, so the term swarthy simply means black. To swart, to black. Swart, brown or tawny. To swart, to blacken. So swarthy, dark of complexion. Black, dusky or tawny. So let's go to another dictionary of the English language. Another dictionary of English language by Samuel Johnson, published in 1818. So it's a dictionary of the English language by Samuel Johnson. So let's look at the definition of swarthy. Swart is a Saxon or Dutch. In terms of complexion, black, darkly brown. Swarthiness, darkness of complexion. Swarthy, dark of complexion, black, dusky, or tawny. The swarthy Africans complain. So swarthy Africans are swarthy people, or what we call that Africans are black or brown. Do the people living in modern state of Portugal, are they black or brown today? They are pale complexion people. I've always been saying it that the kingdoms in Europe were founded by Black Europeans, and the abolition of kingdoms in Europe led to scramble for Africa, where a lot of black European monarchs, they settled in Nigeria and across African nations. And some of them even came in, integrated with indigenous Africans and became their traditional rulers. So some of your traditional rulers in Nigeria are black Europeans. I know some of them even in Igbo land that are Portuguese, British. Yes, a lot of British, black British, including Jews from you, black Jews settled in Igbo land. But we will deal with it later, and you will know the reason why they prefer to settle in Igbo land to settling in other parts of Africa. So we have seen that to swart means people of black complexion. Then let's go to the description of the people of Portugal at that time. These books were published in 1600s, 1700s. It's telling you that the Portuguese, the Europeans, were black people. Let's go to okay, let's go to a view of the world as exhibited in the manners, customs, and characteristics of all nations, published in 1918 by Reverend J.I. Blake. So we go to Portugal. The Portuguese resemble the Spaniards in many respects, but the higher class have less knowledge with the more voluptuousness. In general, they are not so tall, nor so well made as the Spaniards. They have swarthy complexions, black hair, and dark eyes, and are of irascible, revengeful disposition. The women are small, with brown complexions but regular features and dark, expressive eyes. You can see this book, published in 1918, is telling you that the people of Kingdom of Portugal, we are black people. Let's go to another book called The Geography Made Easy for the Use of the Young Persons by W. Pinnock, published in 1847. Let's go to Portugal. The Portuguese are very swarthy, with black hair and dark eyes, and the fashion of dress with the women never changes. Hence, milliners and fancy dressmakers are here unknown. So this book again is telling you that the Portuguese, we are black people. Okay, let's go to another book. Another book called A System of School Geography, chiefly derived from Maltebon, published in 1835. This book is saying that the language of Spain, a mixture of Latin with Gothic and monkish dialect, is lish, stately, and sonorous, and the people of Spain are of swarthy complexion. So this book is also telling you that the people of Spain is of swarthy complexion. Let's go to page 145. In education, the Portuguese are even more backward than the Spaniards. They are devoted Catholics in religion. Their language is nearly the same as the Spanish. This Spanish also came to Nigeria, and they are the people we call the Essans today. And that's why you see the Benin and the Essan language are very similar. We will go into it in our next presentation. Their government is despotic. The Portuguese have swarthy complexions, black hair, and dark eyes. You see, this book again is telling you that the Portuguese, we are swarthy people, not pale complexion people. Okay, this is another manuscript again. A dictionary, geographical, statistical, and historical of the various countries, places, and principal natural objects in the world by J. R. McCurrock, published in 1866. Let's go and see the description of the Portuguese. The Portuguese are generally dark complexion people. You can see that the Portuguese that came to Nigeria and the Spaniards, the Dutch, they were all black people, black Europeans. And they are still there. They didn't go back. They are what we call the ethnic minorities in Nigeria. Have you wondered why all the ethnic minorities in Nigeria why the Igbos are surrounded on all sides is by the ethnic minorities in Nigeria. Have you ever give a thought about it? Why? Why do you think the Igbos are surrounded on all sides by these ethnic minorities? It's because they came on ships. Yes, they were brought here on ships. We will see how they came. How the Beninese, the people you call Benin chiefs today, how they came, how they were brought in uh, when the Portuguese arrived the coast of Guinea. So they arrived the coast of Guinea. Okay, let's read this from this book, The Manual of Dates, a dictionary of reference to all the most important events in the history of mankind to be found in authentic records by George H. Townsend. This book was published in 1862. Let's see what it says and how the Portuguese plan to divide Africa, the Black Portuguese. You know, these people, they came with gun. Don't forget, when Africans, we are fighting with spears and machetes. Okay. The Portuguese in the 15th century were the first to obtain more definite information respecting the form and dimensions of Africa. They ascertained the correctness of the assertion of Herodotus that it was except at the Isthmus of Suez, surrounded by water. They were followed by the English, the French, the Dutch, and other nations. These nations also came to Nigeria, and they made up the bulk of the nations in the Gold Coast. I will describe as we go along my presentation the European ethnic groups that made up the Gold Coast, the modern Ghana, and their African equivalents today. During the earlier portion of the 15th century, several efforts were made to obtain further knowledge of this vast continent. But nothing important was accomplished until 1444, when a number of individuals at the Lagos formed themselves into a company for the prosecution of African discovery and colonization. Okay? African discovery and colonization. Mark this word, discovery and colonization. So, so they are planning to come in, okay, to form a colony. We will now look at the definition of a colony. Yes. What is a colony? I've always told people that when we talk about a colony, it means moving people from their homeland to go to a distant land to occupy the place. So we are usually moved and around from 15th century into a distant places. These black Europeans, they came with gun, okay? And then they went to America, they went to Caribbean, they came with a lot of guns and they occupied a particular place, established their government, and they started slave trade. And they were shipping slaves to their colonies where they found for them. So let's look at the Dictionary of the English Language by Samuel Johnson and John Walker. Okay, a colony, to colonize. Okay, let's start from colonist. One departed from the mother country to inhabit some distant place. So if I move, those that move from their original country to inhabit a distant place. To colonize, to plant with inhabitants. Colonization, planting with inhabitants or forming colonies. A colony, a body of people drawn from the mother country to inhabit some distant place, the country planted. You can see. So remember, the Portuguese colonized Idu. Yes, the Portuguese, they colonized Idu. As I have shown you, that these Portuguese were not white people. Yes, they were not white people. There were no white people colonizing Africa. It was later, around 19th century, that these black Europeans later started coming in with with some white people. Okay, let's look at this manuscript again. The world's inhabitants, or the mankind and animals and plants, are published by J.T. Bettany, and it was published in 1882. Let's say what it says about the Caucasians. As I told you, that the Caucasians were not white people. The people that colonized Africa were Caucasians. They were Negroes. They came in with gun and overthrew uh, African leaders, and they took control. Because their population was very small, they started capturing slaves, creating their own settlements, and interbreeding with these slaves as well. We will see it as well in the Benin Red Book, published by Oba of Benin himself. So let's look at the Caucasians. Okay, let's look at the Greco-Romans. There is no sufficiently marked distinction of stock between Greeks and Romans, and their descendants, too, are very much intermixed. They became predominant both in the Spanish Peninsula and in France. But it must be remembered that very many Teutons, Celts, and other races have gone to the making of the French, the Spaniards, and the Portuguese people. They are mostly of a swarthy complexion and are to a large extent Roman Catholics. Can you see? So they form the Albanians, the Greeks, the Romanian people, the Italians, the French, the Belgians, the Swiss, the Spaniards, the Portuguese. These were black Europeans. It's not we are talking about history of colonization and slavery. We are not talking about the white people that won the Second World War that are controlling Europe now. No. We are talking about the black inhabitants of Europe that carried out slave raids. Okay? These people, they came into Africa, they slaughtered a lot of people and founded their own kingdom. Those are the ethnic minorities you see in our South region today. All of them, they came. They never went back. So what they did is that they came, they rewrote the history to deceive you. Okay? Okay, let's see the documents from the British website where it stated clearly that, yes, that the name Benin was derived from the East Portuguese settlers. Let's see. The name Benin is one that derived from East Portuguese settlers who began trading with the region in 1485. So also, let's look at the name, because I told you that the Kingdom of Benin, Lagos, and Calabar were founded by the Black Portuguese. Okay, let's see another one. Okay, the name Calabar was indeed given by the Portuguese explorers in the 15th century. So they came in and they named. Most people don't know that some of the names on African continents were given by the Portuguese. I remember when they heard that the South Africans are changing the name of their country to Azania. I told them, I made in one Facebook post that Azania was a Portuguese name given to the Cape of Good Hope by the Portuguese settlers who first discovered it. So, do you think that those Portuguese have gone back? No, they are still there. But because they were black, you have been miseducated that, oh, these Portuguese were white people. They were not white people. Yes, they were not white people. Okay, let's look at Lagos, Nigeria. Because I have said that Lagos as well, because I have heard where people say that Oba of Benin founded Lagos, that Benin founded Lagos. They are lying to you. They are not telling you the truth. The people that founded Lagos, they are hiding their identity so that they will have a root in Africa. Most of these ethnic minorities were not Africans. Yes, they were not Africans. They are hiding their root in Europe so that they will have a root in Africa to deceive people. Okay, let's see. What he said about Lagos, because Lagos was named after the city of Lagos in Portugal. We will also discuss about the city of Lagos in Portugal when we will discuss the history of the Jews, who are really the Israelites. Watch out for the series. Okay, so let's go to this book, the Stanford's Compendium of Geography and Travel, new issue. Africa, Volume 1, North Africa, by A.H. Kane, published in 1895. Let's see what he said about Lagos. The river of Lagos at this channel is over 3 miles wide, forms the harbor with a bar at its mouth 10 to 12 feet deep, but dangerous during the rainy season. Lagos, or the Lakes, as it was named by the early Portuguese settlers, was formerly one of the chief centers of slave trade in the Guinea coast. The French succeeded the Portuguese and founded a fort at the place in the time of Louis uh, the, the 14th. Okay? So, and they are still there. Most of them are now bearing Yoruba names, speaking Yoruba language, and they are the traditional rulers. All those bales, the dukes you see in Lagos, they are still there. They are not Yoruba people. Yes, they came in, they captured Yoruba slaves, sold some of them across the Atlantic, and then have captured as many women as possible and some of their servants as well. And then they settled in Lagos. So when the Oba of Benin is telling you that they are related to the Oba of Lagos, is indirect way of telling you that they are Portuguese settlers. They are not Yorubas. So they are hiding their true identity. Okay? So okay, let's see how the discovery of the Benin. Yes, we will see how the king of Portugal discovered and implanted their population from to Africa. Across Africa is not only Benin, because they settled in the Gold Coast, they settled in Angola and the Congo and all those places. So so this is the map of the Atlantic world. So the Portuguese, they decided to invade. They invaded a lot of places. They moved from their area in Portugal, came to Guinea, Africa. They also wreaked havoc across Africa, from North Africa to the sub-Saharan Africa. They also went to South America as well, even to the Americas. So they were obsessed with slave trade. Okay? And then, so what triggered them? So when they came, they arrived the Gulf of Guinea, okay? And then they moved in and they established their headquarters in Benin. And from there, they expanded to Almena in Gold Coast, where they built the slave forts and where they keep slaves. They were processing for transfer to their Portuguese colonies to work on their sugar plantation and other plantations. Also, these people, they started invading Igbo territories as well. So when they came to Idu. Yes. So they arrived Idu, which is Igbo territory. I have seen a lot of Benin's claiming that they are the real Idus. We are not Idu. Sorry. We have a lot of documents, some documents by Europeans who came and what they said about Idu. Okay. So who are the original inhabitants of Idu? Let's read the documents, because the area now called Benin City is Idu and is an Igbo territory. Yes, it's an Igbo territory before the arrival of the Portuguese with guns and cannons. Okay. Yes, the Igbos could not stand them because Igbos had no knowledge, had no access to firearms. So someone fighting with machetes and spears cannot challenge someone that came with muskets and cannon. No, they cannot. Okay. So let's see the description of the inhabitants of Idu. And what is the original name of the place? If we go to the proceedings of the Church of the Missionary Society for Africa and the East, published between 1902 and 1903. It was actually published in 1903 in London. Let's see. The name by which the Benin city is known is Ado, and Igbo people call it Idu. Let's see the original inhabitants of Idu. Let's go to this book published in 1892 by, the name of the book is Up the Niger, the narrative of Major Claude MacDonald's mission to the Niger and the Benue River, West Africa, published by Captain Mokla ferryman in 1892. He states, Idu is quite the fewest town we have yet visited, and the inhabitants who are Igbos, the widest natives we have had anything to do with. So this manuscript is confirming that the original inhabitants of Benin City were Igbo people. So the Idu is an Igbo land. Yes, the Igbo land. So most of that, I've always maintained that the original inhabitants of southern Nigeria prior to arrival of black Europeans were the Yorubas and the Igbos. And the Igbo territory extended to Ile-Ife, encompasses the entire Warri, and then down to River Niger, on what is now Igbo land, and then up to Kogi. Yes. So these things are verifiable. Okay, so why do the Portuguese decided to move around the world, wreaking havoc around the world? Yeah, I think it's probably due to economic pressures as well, and other considerations. The problem is that the black Europeans, they were very greedy, not really greedy, they were very inquisitive. They wanted to explore the world and to gather all the wealth to themselves. And in doing so, they wreak havoc across the world and caused millions of deaths. Okay, let's read this book, The Portuguese in West Africa, 1415 to 1670, a documentary history, edited by Marlin Newweg. This book was published in Cambridge. Let's see. The Portuguese overseas expansion can also be understood as three separate but interconnected diasporas, three streams of migrants who mingled to form the new communities of the Atlantic world. So these Portuguese, they left Portugal. They moved into different places, Africa and other places, and they mingled with a lot of the people they met there. Of course, those they could not sold into slavery. And one migrant stream was provided by ordinary people leaving the poverty-stricken rural communities of Portugal to make their living at sea or to search for new land in the islands on which to settle. Many of these eventually moved on from the islands to the mainlands of Africa and America as traders, settlers, carrying with them their language, religion, technical skills, networks of contacts. Okay, so you can see, so they came. They didn't just because the poverty in Portugal also made them to seek for alternative source of wealth. Okay, let's see the formation of Benin. Yes, okay, let's see how Benin was formed by the King of Portugal. Yes, I have told you earlier to consider the word discover and a colony. So if I tell you the prominent people in Benin, Lagos and Calabar of Portuguese ancestry, some of them say, yes, they say that the British destroyed the Portuguese. Yes, the black Europeans were competing among themselves. Yes, if the Portuguese discover an island and if it's wealthy, mining gold and all those things, the Dutch may come and sack it. Or if they are dealing with slaves, and the British, if they cannot reach an agreement with the British at that time, the black British will come and sack it. And that's what led to destruction of Benin. Also, the British was also eager to end slavery, which Oba of Benin, Oba of Lagos and many places in Nigeria where these black Europeans settled, they don't want to end slavery because it profits them. Yes, it profits them. They don't want to work. They want other people to serve them. So that's what led to British destruction of Benin. Benin was never an empire. It was a slave shop where the Oba of Benin will come and invade Yoruba territory, capture Yoruba slaves and sell. They will invade Igbo territories in what is now Western Igbo and capture slaves and sell. And we will also see the foundation of the people because some of the Benin families greet La Vieze. Yes, breathe Lavieze. So this greeting shows that of their Igbo ancestry, Eze. And yeah, so we will see how Benin was discovered. Let's go to this book. Encyclopedia Metropolitana, or the Universal Dictionary of Knowledge, on an original plan comprising the twofold advantage of philosophical and an alphabetical arrangement with appropriate engravings. It was published by three reverends, Reverend Edward Smedley, Reverend Hop James Rose, and Reverend Henry John Rose. Volume 14, published in 1845. Let's go. Okay. So, um, Henry had obtained from Pope Eugene IV a grant of all the discovery which he might make from Cape None to the Indian continent. And the grant was confirmed by Alfonso, his successor to the throne of Portugal, in whose reign the spirit of adventure seems to have slumbered, at least with regard to the royal breast. The castle of Mina on the Gold Coast had been constituted the capital of Portuguese power and the central point from which the discovery were to be prosecuted. So it's because of this castle of Elmina where every year the African Americans will be coming to visit and they will be deceived that it was the black people. No, it was the white man that built the Elmina castle. It's a lie. The Elmina castle in Gold Coast, what is now Ghana, was built by black people, black Portuguese, where they were keeping the Negroes, selling the Africans through the Middle Passage. Any Africans that pass through the castle will not return again. Okay? So it is time to tell African Americans the truth that the people that sold them were black Europeans. And some of African Americans are descendants of these black Europeans. So these are the histories that have been hidden from us. Okay? Okay, let's go. So it's telling you that it was Pope Eugene IV, and this Pope is also a black man. Yes. I don't have time to go into the description of the popes prior to Second World War. They were black people, black Europeans. Okay? And so let's go ahead. After the possession of this port for 3 years, the king did not hesitate to affix to his other titles that of Lord of Guyana. Yes, so the king of Portugal, King Alfonso, called himself the king of Guinea. Yes, he is now calling himself the king, that he owned the entire Guinea. You should look at the map of Africa. Yes. Look at the map of Africa and see where the Guinea is. So he called this Guinea because he said that he see it as it is his title to rule it and oppress the original inhabitants of this region. And this area we are talking about, we are inhabited by Israelites. We will go and when we discuss about the Israelites in our next series, you will see what happened. The transatlantic slave trade was the enslavement of the Israelites. Because I've been telling you people that the Israelites were African people. Yes. And it was authorized by the Roman Catholic Church. So what happened? And the naval commanders were directed in the future to erect pillars of stone to be adorned with escutcheons of the royal arms of Portugal, with appropriate inscriptions to mark and to secure their discoveries. Diego Cam was the first who went from Mina with these ensigns of dominion, and soon after his departure met with a strong current from the land whose waters, being discolored, suggested the near approach of a river, which he soon found. And from the kingdom through which it flowed, dominated it the Congo, and the natives called it the Zaire. In sailing up the river, he saw a multitude of inhabitants on the shore of a black complexion, which whom as their language was unintelligible, he maintained some intercourse by signs, and having enticed several of them on board, set sail for Portugal. So this black man, Diego Can, who came into Africa around the coast of Congo, so a lot of inhabitants lured them into their ships. You know, Africans have been gullible from day one. And they easily trust people. So what he did is that he lured some of them into his ship and took them to Portugal. These were the first African slaves that arrived Portugal, and it was captured by Diego Can, a black Portuguese. You see, I told you that transatlantic slave trade was black on black violence. And when we discuss the issue of Congo, you will really know the origin of what Congo is all about at this time, because the Congo is what we call the land of the Jews. Yes, we will discuss it in our next video. Let's go ahead. This was in 1484. In a few months, he returned and sailed forward 200 leagues along the coast. Under the patronage of John II, who succeeded Alfonso, a large fleet was sent out which discovered the kingdom of Benin and Congo. So initially, when Diego came in, he stopped at the coast, enticed some Africans to enter, and then he carried them off to Portugal and sold them as slaves in the city of Portugal. And then he returned back again with large fleet and sailed 1,500 miles. Okay, under the patronage of John II, who succeeded Alfonso, a large fleet was sent out, which discovered the kingdom of Benin and Congo, and sailed 1,500 miles beyond the equinoctial line to secure the countries now discovered. John took care that colonies should be planted and force elected. Can you see? So when they now discovered, they planted a colony in what is now called Benin. Let's go to another document and see whether this information corresponds to the information in another document I've come across. Let's go to this document called the Library of American History, a reprint of standard works. It was published in 1836. Let's go to here. John II, who succeeded his father Alfonso in 1481, possessed talents capable both of forming and executing great designs. As part of his revenues, while prince, he had arisen from duties on the trade with the newly discovered countries. This naturally turned his attention towards them and satisfied him with respect to their utility and importance. This spirit derived no small reinforcement of vigor from the countenance of such a monarch as John, declaring himself the patron of every attempt towards discovery. He promoted it with all the ardor of his great uncle, Prince Henry, and the superior power. The effects of this were immediately felt. A powerful fleet was fitted out in 1484, which, after discovering the kingdoms of Benin and Congo, advanced above 1,500 miles beyond the line, and the Portuguese, for the first time, beheld a new heaven and observed the stars of another hemisphere. John was not only so solicitous to discover, but attentive to secure the possession of those countries. So he was not only interested in discovering distant places, he also wanted to secure it. How did he do that? He implanted a colony. He built forts on the coast of Guinea. He sent out colonies to settle there. You see? So he discovered Benin and Portugal and then sent out colonies, a lot of ships coming in to settle on Idu. He established a commercial intercourse with more powerful kingdoms. Okay? So this is how he did it. He sent out colonizers who came, these people came, started war, and when they talk about business, it's slavery. Okay? It's slavery. So when they come out and tell you, oh, it is a Benin Empire, it's a lie. It was a Portuguese slave rate. So these people, they've dropped their original Portuguese name. They have adopted, mixed their language and everything with the slaves. We will come at we will also read the anthropological report on the Benin language. Yes. But is it true that the Benin were, that the Portuguese settled Benin with their own colonists from, as we can see, they settled it with their own colonists. They captured slaves from surrounding African tribes at the time, which were the Yorubas and the Igbos. And these people is what merged to be called the modern Benin today. Okay? So it is a reason why people like ordinary Benis can never be made up of Benin. Yeah, because they are descendants of slaves. Let's go to the Red Book published by the Benin monarch himself. Let's see what is documented in it. The Benin monarch, an anthology of Benin history, edited by the Benin Traditional Council Editorial Board. Let's see, page 103. The degree of personal authority within the state structure was further demonstrated by many of the chiefs. Who are these chiefs? They are descendants of Portuguese settlers. Yes, they became chiefs because that's what the black Europeans do. Whenever they go, they establish kingdom. Yes, they establish their own settlements, their own colony. They become kingdom, they become chiefs. Okay? Who use slaves to establish villages, farm settlements, or camps. The Oba who also established personal villages, and the Oba who also established personal villages with slaves. So where do these slaves come from? From the Yoruba land and Igbo land, Igbo part of the Western Igbos, the people that call themselves Ekatude, that claim to be descendants of Benin. So, okay, with the competitive spirit, both the Oba and the founding chief, can you see it? The Oba and the founding chiefs. So these Obas and the Enoges, in what they call the dukes, because in Europe, they call themselves dukes. Yes, dukes. They are the Edomites, as I told you, descendants of Romans and Greeks. So if you Google the dukes, the dukes, the dukes are descendants of Edomites. The Edomites you read in the Bible. I read where I told you that they were descendants of Greco-Romans. Yes. So when you hear the Duke, remember Edom. So it was Edom that invaded Africa. Yes. Edom, they are the dukes. You can Google it. Dukes, the descendants of Edom. It will show you that the dukes are the Edomites. Yes, the people of Edom. Don't forget that. So the villages which originated as slave settlements could attain independence through redemption, but continue the payment of customary tribute to the Oba. It follows, therefore, that the use of slaves in the socio-economic organization of Benin during this period was one of the features of the state-society relations. Yes, they were only about, what I usually tell people is that black Europeans, we are the masters of slavery. Yes, they even enslaved white people. Yes, they made white people serfs and slaves of Europe for centuries. And white people freed themselves during after the Second World War. Yes. Oh, because they will say, oh, okay, let's go to the Benin artworks. Those Benin artworks were produced by the Portuguese. Yes. And their Adam and Ebe is also symbolic of Portuguese. It's the Portuguese symbol. Okay. Let's go to this manuscript. The history of Nigeria. Um, the history of Nigeria. Let me see where it made a comment regarding the Benin. Because most people don't know that the Benin artwork was also the artwork of the Portuguese. So what they are, if they are, that makes me to question the repatriation of what they are claiming they are repatriating. Okay, is it the leftover of their artwork in Europe when their ancestors were defeated? Are they repatriating? Because Black Europe, I told you that the Black Europeans built the castles, all the palaces in Europe, and they have a lot of pictures and a lot of artworks that are hidden at the basements of museums across Europe, which is not being told. Is it part of it that is being repatriated? I don't know. But look at this manuscript. He said that the Dutch maintained slave factories at Benin for some time, for a period of for few years, from 1788 to 1792. The French also had an establishment there, but the British ships kept the bulk of the trade, and it is estimated that during the palmy days of slave trade, more than half of the slaves exported from the west coast of Africa were shipped in British bottoms from the rivers between Calabar and Bonny. You can see it. So when they are telling you about the Benin Empire, it's not an empire. It is a slave shop where, unfortunately, the people that were sold there were the Igbos and the Yorubas. And the Igbos and Yorubas were used to create the modern ethnic groups together with the bulk of population they shipped from Europe. Don't think that those Europeans, they went back. They did not go back. They are the people you call the Esan, the Ngeni, the Jaws, the Shekili, the Yoruba. Okay? But if the religious zeal of the Portuguese had little effect in other directions, their influence was more lasting. They taught the Benin people the artworking in the brass, and carving in wood and ivory. The specimen of this work carried off from Benin when the city was captured by the British in 1897 may be seen today in the British Museum. Many words of Portuguese origin remain in use in the Benin until the end of 19th century. The king of Benin, who reigned in 1553, could speak the language which he had learned as a child. So he's telling you that the Oba of Benin is of Portuguese origin, not what they are telling you that they came from Ile-Ife. How can see that their kings, their earlier kings, spoke Portuguese? Yes, they spoke Portuguese. Don't allow anybody to fool you. And this has been confirmed in the manuscript. Yes. And let me show you the anthropology report of Edo-speaking people of Nigeria. It will also confirm that the Beninese are of mixed Igbo, Portuguese, and Yoruba origin. Let's go to the anthropological report of Edo-speaking people of Nigeria. Yes. So the classic reference series, the anthropological report on the Edo-speaking people of Nigeria, the law and custom. Let's go to the, which page is it? Let's see. Okay, so we're going to page 7. Among the words common to Edo and Yoruba are such as stem, okay, hill, okuta, stone, and the like, and the reason of their appearance in both families of languages is firstly, okay, is telling you that, yeah, but see where they lied. They lied that the kings came from Ile-Ife is a lie. So what these guys did is that they wrote themselves into history. Why should the Portuguese leave Africans on throne when they came with gun? Nobody does that. I have a document and I saw what they did to the king of Congo when they came to Congo, the Portuguese. Yes, they usurped the throne and took over the throne, those Portuguese. There are certain resemblances between Edo and Igbo languages, which are more difficult to explain. It's a lie. It's not more difficult. They are lying. They are trying to write themselves into history as if they were Africans. And parts of the body, for example, the mouth, Onu, are known by identical names. And here it is difficult to suggest an explanation is a lie. Because the Benin of today, especially those that create Laviers are of Igbo ancestry. Finally, there are a certain number of words like equia, which are obviously adopted from Romance language of Europe. They are coming out now. And we need have no difficulty on deciding on Portuguese as their source, for it is well known that the Portuguese were in Edo at the beginning of 16th century. They don't want to tell you, oh, that the Portuguese settled there because they want to lie that those Portuguese were white people. Let me show you a book that confirm that that Africa was a white man's graveyard. Let's see the book called West African Countries and Peoples, James Africanus Houghton, published in 1864. Let's go to this page on introduction. The mid-19th century, in spite of all the confident European belief in progress, was the period of white man's grave in West Africa. You see, the mid-19th century, white people were still dying. They were not really living in Africa. The people that came here, yes, we are black Europeans. The same thing, the people that destroyed Benin Kingdom. Yes, I have said where the Benin say that it was the Yorubas is a lie. The people that destroyed, we are the black Portuguese. Yes, most of the images you see on the internet are lies. We are black British. Most of they are lies. They came with white servants. White people were not ruling Europe at this time. The death rate among European doctors on the coast determined the British War Effort Office to train suitable Africans as medical officers to serve with the imperial garrisons in West Africa, because the white people who were the serfs could not work on African soil because of the tropical diseases. Malaria and other tropical diseases could have finished them off. Okay. Yeah, so you can see that history is a lie. Okay? See you on my next video. Bye.